Part 2, Andre Klein Preter, a novella about a war by Danica Conwell. Chapter 3, Part 2. The potential daddy issues the patriarchy started with and then later dumped them onto women. For God or the Father was created, and he created this new patriarchal universe where women couldn't win no matter how hard they try. It would be a lot better if they just stopped trying. Yes. What can we need in order for this to happen? Break them. Then so the universe was created, and within this universe there were only 4 types of women. 1. The virginal mother. 2. The whore girlfriend taking the son off the virginal mother. 3. A temptress getting us kicked out of eternal paradise, dooming women for the rest of time. 4. And the bad girl Delilah, that forbiddance romance because she was evil, not Samson. He was God's chosen one who just fell for the wrong gal. Does anyone see these stereotypes, nevertheless? I'll quickly backtrack to the story I was previously telling. I just had to take a detour through the Old Testament. I was exposed to the Old Testament only 2 years ago, and for some reason I knew it was going to be important in reference to my own story. And it was going to help me to decode my story and specific events within my story. And although the story of the women of the Bible was a slight story detour, because of that fact, it also is very important to this story and so necessary. I just don't know exactly how or why yet, especially the relationship between and characters of Eve and the snake. However, in the name of sanity and linear timelines, I will take the blue pill and continue the original story now. My soulmate, Andre Klein, was with me before and after I had my second spiritual awakening. This one was an awakening, not a death, and it ended in me apologizing to my little child for abusing her for the last 20 years, an abuse I thought was love and stemmed from the intention of overprotection, then anger towards her. The anger I had was towards the self, me, not her. I didn't know her or even remember her. This is why, when she let me see her again for the first time during this awakening, it was bliss. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever experienced in my life, all in around 20 minutes. I remember coming out of that experience absolutely perplexed as to what I had just experienced. Andre was at my apartment, and I kept referring to myself as 2 people, and he started to think I was going insane. Consequently, after that experience, I decided to get clean from pills again. And for about 3 weeks, I was completely clean again. Getting clean is a good way of trying to integrate the beauty of that world with the beauty of this world, which I know I found in recovery in ways I had never found anywhere else in life up until that point. Besides my weird sudden love for Andre, that somehow went from strangers to friends to dating to soulmates in about 2 to 3 weeks. Nevertheless, the feeling coming back to this reality from the new reality I was shown and told was the color reality, was that of immense happiness and wholeness. Now I had little Danica back. This meant I had my soul back. I felt I had become 70 years wiser after that experience, and knew myself like I had lived for 70 years. If I wished anything upon any human being in this world and all living creatures, it would be to feel even 1 second of that same feeling of wholeness I got from my second spiritual awakening just once in their lives, and maybe some do. Although I cannot show evidence for this, this was the feeling of complete on-target virtue hit for me. No matter what happens now in any reality I face, past, present, or future, I will always have that experience where I felt a love and forgiveness for myself so real. It was realer than real. God had given me the knowledge of how to be kind to myself finally, which was completely foreign to me 3 years earlier. If to be kind to yourself had some sort of method like a recipe, kindness would have been like baking a Black Forest cake. I am inclined to skip the process and just buy it from a person who can make cakes well, because why do something yourself when someone else can do it better and is willing to? You could say this is just another way of saying I pretty much just said, fuck it, do the drug and the other destructive tasks that will lead me to a shameful, depressing, and neurotic ending. Historically, I have found school to be hard to finish, but had I navigated more towards overdue deadlines and simply attended lectures and gone to my tutorials, I could have about 13 degrees by now with much success. However, success does come to me easy, if at all, because when it comes to destroying paradise or anything beautiful in my world, I am extraordinarily efficient at doing it. Whenever I see success, I get this murderous need to just kill it. By and large, now that I have the ability to completely understand kindness, especially to myself, along with that experience, I wanted to start working on my relationship with Andre without using drugs. For this reason, my first idea was to get clean again from prescription pills, which was my main toxic addiction. However, nagging at me in the background when I was making these changes was my shadow. I called my shadow her at the time, who I ignored because I didn't trust my shadow back then, but I should have listened to her because she was trying to warn me about the path I had set my mind upon subconsciously. This mindset was moving me in the opposite direction to working on my relationship with Andre. So in a last-ditch attempt to stay with him was another reason why I stopped taking the pills also. Having just recovered from a wild and terrifying 10-year abusive relationship with her, I had learned to not trust my intuition because I had been practicing not feeling or being human in any way for so long. And if I did feel anything, I was quick to disassociate from those feelings. It was this creepy, uncomfortable feeling of dissociation that was leading up to the day I was to finally reunite with my lifeless and sociopathic old friend. Victim X, my second spiritual awakening, was definitely preparing me for that knock at the door from Victim X that morning, which was 2 weeks after the second spiritual awakening. She had been coming through to me for quite a while, spiritually, but we had not yet reunited after I had brutally, unsuccessfully, desperately tore her from my life 3 years before that. I told her at one point a few months earlier that if you don't want to be friends, then we can't ever meet again. I told her I was happy with Andre and that she must not interfere, but I was happy to just be her friend. So naturally, seeing her at my door that day, I assumed it had registered that we would only be friends. My first response was to feel good about that, but after she threw me down with this horrifying energy, so familiar to me, but not welcomed back, I quickly realized that was not a boundary Victim X was going to respect. I deluded myself for years about her inevitable arrival, and what followed was a true 6-year battle to the core. Even now, after all we went through, I think I will always wonder how genuine Victim X was. Was I just living with a delusion I had created affecting those around to interact with me in ways that would validate this delusion, thus allowing me to live within it for as long as Victim X was in my life? But after I had reunited with Victim X, and with this unexpected obligation, I broke up with Andrew the next day. I wrote Andrew a card, telling him I loved him and I had to say goodbye for a little while because I had little Dolly to set things right with. However, I didn't tell him about the war I was about to ignorantly enter into with Victim X, the ghost of my ego. It was a self-harming choice, but how was I to know the wisdom that future years would bring? I didn't understand that the war that I purposefully declared as slow and dehumanizing like Stalin's famine would be as painful as it was and would involve feelings that I only had felt for the first time ever during this time. Feelings so airy that I don't think you get to feel them twice. 80% of these feelings, and I still don't even know their names, are feelings I am not racing to feel ever again. But they scaled across the line of feelings that had elements of the usual suspects: great regret, guilt, loss, sorrow, and the deepest sadness and insanity I had ever felt in my life, melancholia. So with this, Andrew and I parted ways, knowing the choice to be in a loving relationship wasn't possible for me at the time, and it was just a change, and I wanted Andrew to understand was temporary, and that one day I would be able to be a better friend lover to him. I would be able to be honest and capable of feeling the absence of beauty, but knowing that the power between us would get us through, and this place was where we were meant to be. Apart, but I was never far away. I tried to convey this. The card had a lit girl on the front of it, and she was typing on her typewriter with her mousy brown hair. That was little Dolly, and little Dolly needed me more than Andrew needed me at the time, which was one of the things I wrote in the card. I wrote that I had to go away for a while and mend that relationship with myself for now without him. This card was later that year found in Andrew's hands after he killed himself that following New Year's Eve. When I was told about Andrew dying, I dissociated from this unreal feeling of grief that it rained down upon me for about an hour, forgetting that he was even dead by the time I came back from this flight. But shortly coming back down an hour later, remembering he had died and having this insight into how soundly I could use my ability to dissociate when hit with information that floods my body with pain. That's the power of death. It's unavoidable and uncontrollable, and that part of it kills me. All you have to do it, break down and cry, and so I did. With Andrew gone, it was now truly just me, and the feeling that I had lived with for 1 year leading up to my first ESSA. This energy shining off of Victim X like radiation. This feeling was dangerously familiar to me, and I thought I was not yet strong enough to try to face it. However, I did think instantly that I knew I didn't want to introduce Andrew to this feeling, or to the girl I used to be before I met him. And mostly I didn't want to anger or upset him in response to seeing me go through such turmoil that followed this day. I reconnected with Victim X. I had to leave him. I just didn't predict that he would also leave me. Andrew is my one true soulmate. He would have inadvertently gone through the whole thing with me if he was around me, and I was not going to allow it. This was my karmic lineage, and I had to experience the pain alone. I proceeded on the unplanned life path that was always only going to lead to murder and chaos, and it was clear that my soulmate wasn't. He meant to be a part of it. It was a pure loss. I've never loved anyone as instantly as I loved Andrew. I felt what he felt, and I loved how he loved. I admired him and protected him and was challenged by him and was afraid of him. But I hope that card I gave him made him understand that I loved him more than anyone else in the world, and still do. After knowing they found him dead with the card in his possession, close by his side, I was assured he did understand that. I know that has now been translated to him after death. A love I will get to experience again with him one day. As my time to die, when I also become a part of this weird, faint reality of no thing, where the bliss of his energy awaits me. Chapter 4, Talking to Snakes.